All right, so here we got the City Select stroller by Baby Jogger, and this is a double stroller which my wife and I just bought. We bought it on Craigslist. It's used for a couple years, and it's in really good condition overall. But after buying it, we noticed that the front wheels are really terrible. And then doing some research online, you can see that everybody has posted how terrible these front wheels are, and they cost $40 to replace each. So here you can see how ours look. This is after we just got it, and there's a big rut right down the middle of the wheel. And you can see the front wheels here take most of the load on the stroller, and they're just like plastic with this little bit of foam on top of them. And I didn't want to buy replacement wheels because I didn't want to have the same exact problem again. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. So to get these front wheels out, the first thing you got to do is just push this button right here and then pull the wheels right out. So I did some research online, and I noticed that the Baby Jogger makes a stroller called the Mini GT or something similar to that, and it has these wheels instead of these wheels. So these wheels are like a permanently filled air. They are air wheels, but you can't fill them with air. I don't know how they're permanently filled, but that's what they are. And I would consider this wheel a much better wheel than this. So my goal is to put this wheel onto my City Select Baby Jogger to replace these guys. So anyways, the first thing you can see is they have a little different nubbin extension where the connection to the stroller is. So look at this guy, and you can see this guy. So the goal of this project is to make this wheel go into the slot that this wheel used to go. So that's where we're gonna go from here. So I've got my new Mini GT wheel here, and I haven't done any modifications yet to it. You can see that's how it originally came. And I'm gonna put it in the stroller just to show you how it looks. So I'm gonna use my foot here so I can do my camera too. So that's how it looks just in the stroller without modifications. So it actually works, but it's a little loosey-goosey. It doesn't have proper support. You can see here, like I can take and wiggle it just a little bit. I think it would probably work, but it's not perfect. And then also too, you can see it doesn't have the locking feature. So this button is not working. And if I pull up on the stroller, the wheel is gonna come out again. Like that, like that. So we come back here to the original wheel. You can see here, looking at that shaft, you can see where the bushing areas are, where this thing actually takes the load. And you can see it's right here, here-ish, where the black areas are, here and here. So that's where it supports the wheel. And when you compare it to the new one, this is no problem, but this area up here is loose. So you see here, it's almost at the very tip, you got that support, but over here, it's loose. That's why the wheel is kind of rocking, because it's only supported down here. So it's kind of rocking back and forth. So what we need to do is we need to extend the shaft up a little bit. And what I did is I bought some little brass bushings from McMaster Car, and I'll put the part numbers in the comment section. And we're going to grind off this little tip right there, and then so the bushing can slide over the shaft and kind of create that profile all the way up, so that we'll have support in this region up here. All right, so this is what this piece looks like with the wheel off. And what I'm gonna do is, I don't have a lathe or anything to put this thing on. So I thought the easiest way to do is just put this on a little grinding wheel, and we're gonna grind that piece off. All right, so now I ground that shaft down, and I put that little brass bushing on there, and I pressed it on, pretty good. And that's what it looks like, so I'm gonna go check it out and see how it fits. All right, so we got the piece here. Let's go put it in and see how it fits. So you have to push the button now because it doesn't have a chamfer on it. But anyways, you can see here it fits in much more snug. It's hard to tell from the camera probably, but there's no play in there at all. It just fits nicely in there. So the only problem now is that it still falls out. So say you were to go over a curb and lift the front wheels up, since you don't have that extra groove, the whole wheel will just fall out if you lift it up. See, I'm not pushing the button, and I can just pull this guy out. So that's still a problem we gotta take care of. So I actually bought two size bushings, and I like the way the longer one fits on there a little bit better, so I'm gonna stick with that one. That can be for... All right, so for this one, since I ground it down a little bit less, I just hit this with a hammer, hit the bushing with a hammer, and the bushing stays on nice and tight, just like that. So it's tight. But for this one, it's a little bit looser, so I'm gonna super glue this bushing on because I just don't want it falling off. All right, so I just put this the GT wheel on the stroller next with the other one, just to test fit it. It looks good, and you can see how much better the GT wheel looks than the existing wheel. You can just tell it's much more robust, and it just looks better altogether. All right, so what makes the wheel assembly lock into the stroller is this little recess feature right here. So we're gonna have to create that on our new one because it doesn't have it, obviously. So what I did is, first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna measure the depth from the top of the shaft to this feature. And it turns out that it's almost perfectly 5/8, 625. And just remember, when this thing goes up in the stroller, it's resting, it's sitting on the top here. So that's the real depth that matters, from the very top down. All right, so the other piece you're gonna measure is the diameter of that lower section. So put your calipers on there. I already did it. And it turns out it's about 355, or at least mine's about 355. So the best way I could see to mark this shaft was I just got some masking tape and I put it to indicate the area that I don't want to grind. You can see here, I just put it right up to there at 625. So I'm not going to touch any area with tape on it. All right, so in order to grind that recess area, we're gonna do with the Dremel here. And a little trick I like to do is I like to put multiple grinding wheels on my Dremel. I'll put 3 on there. I think that's the max I can do. And then we're just gonna go to town on this and try and create that little recess. All right, so here we got the shaft after grind. In some areas I went a little bit lower than 355, but most parts I didn't. Yeah, it's not perfect, but you can see it's not perfect. But I don't think it's gonna matter too much. Let's go check and find out. All right, so here now we've got the wheel installed in the stroller, and it's looking good. And you can see the button's working now, so it's engaging that groove. And let's lift up, and you'll see that the wheel's stuck in there nicely. Yeah, so the wheel's not going anywhere now. And you actually feel it when you take your 2 hands and feel it apart. But I have 1 hand on the camera, so I can't do that right now. All right, one thing I need to mention though is that when you do this, the swivel lock is not gonna work anymore. So you can see here, let's put the swivel lock on, and it still swivels. But for us, that's not gonna be a problem because I can't picture a scenario in which we would take the swivel lock or put the swivel lock on. But I'll show you how to, there could be a way you could fix that feature, and I'll show you later. All right, here's where the swivel lock doesn't work with my fix. As you see, the lock is on right now, but that little pin's not protruding very high. It's not even sticking up out of this diameter. And you see on the existing one, when the swivel lock is on, that pin sticks up quite a bit. So if you really wanted to engage the swivel lock, you would come over here to the new one, and you would have to get a longer pin. You can see here, there's just a pin that fits through this little piece here, and right here. And you'd have to find something that's just a 1/4 inch longer. I'm sure it could be done. You might have to do some grinding like I did on my shafts, like find a bigger one and grind it down to size, but I'm sure it could be done. You may have noticed too that I actually took apart one of the wheel assemblies. I did it for a previous step, and you don't have to take apart the wheel assembly to do this whole entire rework, but I had done it, so I'll show you how to put it back together and why I think this wheel assembly is way better than the other one too, and it's because of these springs. So they changed the spring mechanism from the existing style, which has a spring in there, so this thing pivots down a little bit. But I don't think this works very well because with my 2 kids in there, it's all the way loaded anyways. So I don't think the spring actually works. But in this style, they put the springs up in here, and I'm gonna put this guy in, and I'll show you when I put it together how the springs work, I think much better. All right, so now the wheel here is kind of half taken apart. And you can see here why I think it's cool is the spring actually pushes down on the hub of the wheel, and then the whole shaft or the hub of the wheel will kind of rotate up in this slot here. So it's got quite a bit of movement. It's got like an inch, maybe an inch of movement here. And then this little metal cover plate just keeps the shaft on like that. All right, and to get these 2 screws on there tight, you just put your finger. See, it's got a socket head connection screw, socket head cap screw back there. So just put your finger on the screw and then put a Phillips head on this guy. Put the biggest Phillips head you can find and put your finger on it and then start tightening, and then it'll tighten on itself. So now we got the second wheel put back together, and I got the shaft taped off, and it's time to grind again. that's this shaft after grind. You can see I did a lot better job on this one. I kind of learned a little bit better technique of going in circles, and we'll go see how that looks. All right, so an hour and a half later, and we got two much better wheels on the stroller. They both work nicely, and the shocks are much better on these as well. As you can't really tell, but if I push down, you get a lot better shock motion going on. All right, so I realized putting these wheels on takes a little bit of time and work, but if you've got an hour and a half and you're willing to do it yourself, you can put much better wheels on these strollers. All right, so I'm also gonna put the McMaster part number for the bushings in the comments section once I'm done here, and I hope this helps somebody.